What's the deal with what I've learned by weight training for an entire year now? Hi, in case you're new to this channel, I am Slick Nick, your personal keto bro. I'm not a doctor or a dietitian, a nutritionist, a personal trainer. I'm just some random guy. I'm training myself at the gym, you could say. And I've had quite a learning curve. And that's what I'm gonna talk about in this video. Yes, I happen to be keto. That's part of what I've learned from the process. So I want to kind of look back, because I looked on my calendar, my wife wrote it on there, Nick, gym, 1 year. So, you know, in real time for me, it's Thursday. Well, Monday made exactly a year. And granted, we could talk about the fact that for 6 weeks, my gym had to close due to COVID, and I didn't go during that time. But during that time, I was still exercising and doing what I could outside at the time. So either way, I've been faithfully going to a gym, typically, not kidding, 6 days a week. Now, if only I knew now what I knew a year ago, we'd see better results. But it took me a year, and that's okay. And granted, if I weren't cheap and I would pay a trainer, I probably could learn these things a lot quicker, but maybe not all of them. I like doing things the way that I'm doing them. They really work for me. So let's talk about where I was a year ago. A year ago, I definitely weighed more than 20 pounds than I did. I was pushing 180 a year ago. And now, I'm averaging closer to between 155 and 159. So I'm getting closer to that 17% body fat goal that I'm wanting to reach and that I'm inspired by. So lost a lot of fat, absolutely. But what I should start out, and it's funny because it's ultimately a reflection of Vince Sant from V-Shred. He has one of those ads that pops up. He's like, what does he say? He said, cardio burns fat, right? Wrong, you know. And so I took notes, and I've really been applying that even as recently as this week. This is my first full weekend of doing the first 3 workouts of the week, doing TUT, which is time under tension, doing everything much slower but with lower weight, so that basically it starves your body of oxygen and causes you to have gains from that. And then also the second half of the week, doing HIIT, which is high intensity interval training, which is actually doing more weight than you're used to, but doing 5 reps, 3 sets of 5. But basically, what's the most weight you can do once? Okay, now do it 5 times 3. So mixing things up instead of being safe in the middle of the road. So those are things that I most recently applied. This is my first full weekend doing that. But I think a lot of it, yeah, it comes down to, like you said, cardio. Cardio is pointless as far as if you're trying to lose fat and gain muscle. Because I ran most of my life from age 15 up until a couple of months ago. I was the guy that I'd be running 2 or 3 miles every couple of days. But it didn't make the fat go away. What I've learned is cortisol gets stored, the stress hormone, which actually causes belly fat. So now I know, walk 2 to 3 miles. Thank you, Autumn Bates, who makes those videos that I watch. She talks about the importance of walking 2 to 3 miles a day. That's part of the keto thing that most of us do, because we know that. We want to work smart, not hard. So definitely walking outside, no matter how cold. Like last week it was a blizzard, I was still doing it. And now today I was walking in shorts and t-shirts. It's in the 60s. So either way, I'm getting outside, getting some fresh air, balancing out, canceling out that cortisol, which causes belly fat. But running actually can cause more of that, and it can actually, thank you, Vince Sant, he teaches that you can actually burn away muscle by doing too much cardio. So walking, and specifically the diet. So a year ago, what was I eating? I was trying to be balanced. I was trying to everything in moderation, everything, right? And I was trying to match my body weight in pounds for grams of complete protein. For me personally, that ended up not really working. Counting calories and staying under 2,000 a day, that did. But ultimately, for me and my goals, I'm not really chasing protein. Well, last fall in 2020 is when I started counting calories while being vegan. And I enjoyed it. I lived 5.5 years as a vegan. I liked being a vegan. But I quickly realized if I'm counting calories and I'm still trying to get in a decent amount of protein, it'd be easier if I at least ate eggs and fish, etc. So what I've eventually realized is, well, what if I just save my carbohydrates to the end of the day, and that way I can make sure that I get enough fat and protein at the first part of the day. And that's how I slipped into this whole intermittent fasting thing in keto, just kind of stumbled into it. And then I had this moment where I woke and I'm like, oh, I'm a keto bro. which inspires this series here. So that's what I've learned. And now I'm very strict about keto, counting my carbohydrates between 25 and 50 grams a day. I'm aiming for 75 grams of complex protein a day and double that in fat. And I'm loving this. And it really makes sense. Instead of trying to do all this cardio and focus all on all this protein. See, the problem, too much protein can actually spike your insulin, which causes you to store more fat. Whereas fat does not, pure fat will not store fat. It won't spike your insulin. So that's why I'm so focused on fat and getting just enough protein. And my research has shown me that 75 grams a day of complex protein coming from mainly eggs, and then also I'll have chicken or turkey, sometimes beef. That's mainly it. But I'm only having actually meat twice a day, and that's even if you're counting eggs. But the majority is coming from butter and cream cheese and Swiss cheese and nuts and seeds. So I'm really focusing heavy on that fat. Of course, my Greek yogurt has both, has whey protein in it and it has fat in it. But I've got away from the shakes as far as those whey protein and all the supplements. I'm really focusing on food that I can chew, food that's gonna take longer to digest in my body instead of me just drinking it. So now I'm not even using the blender anymore. So I've learned a lot and I love this, but it's funny because I never would have known that I would become a keto bro a year ago. But I guess I could have realized that, I will learn some new techniques like time under tension and high interval intensity training. That makes sense. But I wouldn't have realized that running and all this cardio is really not what is going to burn the fat. It's not going to help me reach my goals. It could cause me to store more fat and lose muscle mass that I'm earning is what it might do. So walking 2 or 3 miles a day, intermittent fasting, not really eating except for between 2 and 7 every day, and what little carbohydrates I have the very end of the day, less than 50 grams, which are mainly in my Greek yogurt, a few little blueberries, and half of a sweet potato. That's my carbs for the day, which I don't miss them at all, just enough to kind of get some extra fiber in there. But I'm getting my fat, and my fat is my fuel for my brain and for my body. I love this, but I think the thing is most people aren't open-minded enough to try it out. They want to criticize it without actually doing it. And what's funny is I was open-minded enough to live, I'm 2 months away from turning 40. Most of my 30s, I was either vegetarian or vegan most of that time. And now that I'm entering my 40s soon, we're seeing that we still are dealing with a very open-minded yet disciplined person. I think to some degree it takes a lot of mental focus and discipline, but ultimately it's just a matter of doing it. I'm seeing the results already and I'm looking forward to seeing where this thing continues to go. Your comments belong right here.